My friend, I want to speak to you plainly and from the depths of my heart. Right now, you may be sitting there, quiet, confused, maybe even broken, asking yourself the question you can't say out loud. Why hasn't she called? Why hasn't she messaged? And in that silence, you're starting to feel something heavy, a pain that words can't explain. It's not just about missing a text, it's about missing her. It's about missing the connection, the closeness, the warmth of someone who once made you feel seen. Let me tell you something, and I want you to hear it not just with your ears, but with your soul. Her silence is not meaningless. Her silence has a voice. And sometimes, that voice says more than any words ever could. When someone withdraws, when they stop reaching out, it often reveals the condition of the relationship. But more than that, it forces us to look inward, to confront our own need for connection, our own wounds, our own expectations. We were created to love and be loved. But love must be mutual. It must be alive, breathing on both sides. If one heart stops reaching, it leaves the other stranded in the valley of confusion. Now, I'm not here to tell you that she's heartless or that she doesn't care. Maybe she's going through her own battles. Maybe life has swept her into another direction. Or maybe, just maybe, she's not choosing you anymore. And if that's the truth, don't run from it. Don't beg for her attention. Don't lower your dignity to hold on to someone who has already let go. You see, sometimes God allows silence in your life to teach you how to hear your own heart again. To teach you that your value was never in someone else's replies. It was always in your identity, your purpose, your worth as a human being. This silence may feel like rejection, but what if it's redirection? What if she walked away so that you could walk into something greater? What if her silence is the very space God is using to whisper your healing? You may feel like something is ending, and maybe it is. But the end of one connection doesn't mean the end of love. It means there's something more ahead. Something more aligned with who you are becoming. Let her silence teach you. Let it humble you. Let it mature you, but don't let it make you bitter. Bitterness is a prison. Forgiveness is freedom. Forgive her, even if she never calls again. Forgive her, not because she asked, but because you want your heart back. You can't. Move forward if you're always looking at a phone screen waiting for a message that may never come. Look up. Lift your head. There's more to your life than this moment. There's a future still waiting for you. A future that doesn't depend on her response. You are loved by the one who never goes silent. You are seen by the one who never forgets you. And, in time, the right people, the ones meant for your life, will never leave you guessing. So today, if she doesn't call or message you for a long time, don't chase, don't crumble, don't compromise. Let that silence shape you. Let it guide you back to yourself. And trust that the silence that breaks your heart today may be the very thing that saves your soul tomorrow. When she doesn't call or message you for a long time, it can feel like a slow, invisible weight pressing against your chest. You keep checking your phone, first out of habit, then out of hope, and eventually out of desperation. You tell yourself maybe she's busy, maybe something came up, maybe tomorrow. But somewhere deep inside, in the quiet moments before sleep, or in the stillness of an early morning, you begin to realize something no one wants to admit. Silence isn't just absence. Silence is presence in another form. Silence speaks. And if you listen, not just with your ears but with your soul, you'll hear its message. Because her silence, whether intentional or unconscious, says something. It says something about where she is, what she feels, and perhaps most painfully, what she no longer feels. We live in a world full of noise. Text messages, notifications, social media. We're surrounded by constant chatter. So when someone chooses silence, it's not a neutral act. It's deliberate. It's a decision. Even if it's not meant to be cruel, it is clear. Because when someone cares, they communicate. Maybe not every second, maybe not with long paragraphs, but they show up. They reach out. They let you know you matter. And when that stops without warning or explanation, the message is not coded. It's not confusing. It's just hard to accept. You might be tempted to make excuses for her silence. You might tell yourself that she's overwhelmed or going through a rough time. And maybe that's true. Maybe she is. But silence over time becomes a statement. It tells you where you stand, and more importantly, it forces you to examine where you are standing. Because love cannot live in one-sided pursuit. Love cannot thrive in unanswered messages. Love cannot grow in the soil of neglect. When communication dies, connection does too. The most painful part about her silence is not the unanswered messages. It's the shift in reality. It's the realization that the chapter you thought was still being written might already be over. In her heart. But even in that pain, even in that aching stillness, there is something sacred. Silence invites clarity. It forces you to sit with the truth. And truth, though sharp, is a healer. It doesn't give you false hope. It doesn't keep you chasing shadows. It calls you to confront what is and to stop clinging to what was. You see, silence can be a teacher. It teaches you to stop asking why someone stopped calling and to start asking why you keep waiting for someone who isn't showing up. It teaches you to recognize your own worth, not through their words, but through your response to their absence. You don't have to be angry. You don't have to be cold, but you do have to be awake. Because if her silence is shouting something you refuse to hear, then you're not just being ignored, you're ignoring yourself. From the moment we are born, we cry out. Not because we're in pain, but because we are wired to reach, to connect, to be held. That desire never leaves us. It matures, it deepens, but it never dies. We long for connection, not the shallow kind that fades after a few messages or a fleeting night, but the kind that sees us, knows us, and stays. And when someone we've opened our heart to, someone we've trusted with our time, our words, our quiet hopes, suddenly stops reaching back, that absence cuts far deeper than we often admit. It's not just her silence that hurts, it's the interruption of the bond. It's the unspoken question that lingers. Was I not enough? This longing for connection is not weakness. It is the very fabric of who we are. We were not created to live in isolation. We are not machines built to function independently. We are human souls, designed for relationship, built to be known and loved. That's why the silence of someone we once called ours can echo louder than any argument or goodbye. Because it clashes with the core of what it means to be human, to be in communion with another. When communication dies, we are left not just without words, but without the warmth that those words once carried. And yet, even in the ache of disconnection, we are being shown something vital. We are being reminded of the sacredness of real relationship. Not every person we meet will fulfill that longing. Not every bond we form will last, but every wound, every silence, every unanswered message calls us back to a deeper understanding. Not all connections are meant to stay, but all of them shape us. Sometimes we pursue people out of fear, not love. We hold on, not because they complete us, but because we're afraid of facing the silence of being alone. But true connection doesn't chain you in fear, it frees you in trust. It doesn't leave you questioning your value. It affirms it, even in the quiet moments. The human longing for connection is not a flaw, it is sacred. But when that longing attaches itself to someone who no longer reciprocates, it becomes torment. That's when we must ask ourselves the hard question. Am I holding on to her or to the idea of being held? Because sometimes it's not her we miss. It's the feeling of being seen, heard, loved. And that feeling, as precious as it is, should never come at the cost of your peace. When she doesn't call, when she doesn't message, the silence will try to convince you that you're unworthy of connection. But the truth is, your longing is still pure. It just needs a place to land where it will be honored, not ignored. You don't have to stop longing. You simply have to stop settling. Because the connection you seek does exist, but it will never be found in chasing someone who's already walking away. Silent. When the calls stop, the messages vanish, and the connection dissolves without explanation, there's an immediate temptation to explain it all through logic, emotion, or psychology. You might analyze her past, replay every conversation, or dissect every word she did or didn't say. But what if this moment of silence isn't just emotional? What if it's not just personal? What if there's something spiritual happening here? You see, sometimes the people we attach ourselves to become more than just people in our lives. They become sources. Sources of validation, sources of comfort, sources of direction. And when that source suddenly disappears, we're forced to face the truth that maybe we were drawing strength and identity from a human soul rather than from a deeper, unshakable foundation. Her silence, as painful as it may be, might be the very moment God is trying to recenter your heart. It's hard to hear, especially when you're hurting. But in the absence of her voice, there is room for a greater voice to speak. Sometimes we are so caught up in a relationship that we can't hear what God has been trying to say. We pray for clarity, we ask for peace, but we ignore the distractions that are stealing that very clarity and peace from us. So when she stops calling, when the messages stop coming in, it may not just be a sign that she's pulling away. It might be a divine invitation to step back and listen to what your life is really saying. Pain often brings revelation. When relationship ends, or when someone disappears without explanation, we are left with questions we can't answer. And that's where the spiritual test begins. Will you look inward with bitterness or upward with humility? Will you let this moment harden your heart or refine your soul? Because if you believe, even in your tears, that there's a purpose behind the silence, then you will start to see the pain not as punishment, but as pruning. God doesn't take people away to hurt you. He removes to protect. He allows silence, not to shame you, but to shape you. Maybe she was never meant to walk with you into the next season. Maybe her presence in your life was only for a lesson, not a lifetime. When you see it this way, her silence becomes less of an insult and more of an instruction. Not every closed door is a rejection. Sometimes it's a redirection away from what would have broken you further down the road. So instead of trying to decode her silence with anxiety, try receiving it with spiritual awareness. Ask, what is this moment revealing about me, about my attachments, about my peace? And more importantly, ask, what is God trying to tell me now that everything else has gone quiet? Because in the stillness, when the world goes silent and the heart is raw, that's when the deepest truths are often whispered. There comes a time when holding on becomes heavier than letting go. When you're waiting for a call that doesn't come, for a message that never arrives, something inside you starts to unravel. Not all at once, but slowly, quietly. You begin to question not just the relationship, but your own worth. Was I not enough? Did I do something wrong? These questions echo in your mind, and soon you start believing that maybe her silence is a reflection of your inadequacy. But the truth is, letting go of her doesn't mean you have to let go of yourself. We've all been taught that love requires sacrifice, and in many ways it does. But love, real love, never asks you to sacrifice your identity. It doesn't ask you to lose your voice, your dignity, or your peace. So when someone walks away or drifts away without a word, it's not your job to chase them into their silence. It's not your role to beg for clarity when they've already made a statement by their absence. You can care, you can grieve, but you must not crumble. There's a danger in trying to keep someone who no longer wants to stay. It slowly tears at the soul. You begin to adjust your personality to keep their interest, silence your needs to maintain peace, and ignore your instincts just to hold on to hope. That is not love. That is fear wearing the mask of love. Fear of being alone. Fear of starting over. fear that you'll never feel that connection again. But when you choose to let go, not in anger, but in peace, you reclaim yourself. You remind your soul that you still belong to you. Letting go doesn't mean you didn't love her. It doesn't mean the moments weren't real or that the connection didn't matter. It simply means you're choosing truth over fantasy. You're choosing your healing over chasing someone who's already made their decision. It's one of the hardest things you'll ever do, because everything in you will want to hold on to the memories, to the potential, to the hope. But freedom begins the moment you stop clinging to what was and start living in what is. And what is true now is that you are still whole. You are still valuable. You are still capable of love and worthy of being loved. Her silence doesn't erase your light. Her absence doesn't diminish your depth. If anything, it reveals your strength, that even in disappointment, you can stand. That even in heartbreak, you can rise. You don't have to hate her to heal. You don't have to throw away everything to walk away from what no longer serves your growth. Letting go isn't the end of the story. It's the start of a new chapter where your peace matters more than someone else's inconsistency. Where your self-respect finally takes the lead over your desperation. You can let her go and still hold tightly to who you are. There are moments in life when it feels like someone's silence has stopped your world. You wait, you wonder, and with every passing day that she doesn't call or message, you feel time working against you. You begin to question everything, your worth, your decisions, even your past conversations. It's natural to think that something went wrong, that maybe you missed a sign or said the wrong thing. But sometimes, it's not about what you did or didn't do. Sometimes, her silence is not rejection at all, it's redirection. And in that redirection, there is divine timing at work. You see, life has a rhythm that often escapes our understanding. We want things when we want them. We pray for answers, and when they don't come quickly, we think we've been denied. But God is never late. He is not rushed by your impatience or pressured by your emotions. He moves with purpose, not panic. And sometimes He allows people to leave, not to break you, but to prepare you, to clear the path, to protect you from what you cannot yet see. If she has stopped calling or messaging, and the relationship feels paused or abandoned, it may not be a mistake. It may be mercy. There are people who look like blessings for a season, but would become burdens in the long run. There are connections that seem perfect in the moment, but they don't have the strength to survive the storms ahead. And so God, in His wisdom, removes what you would have tried to keep. He interrupts the story you were writing to make room for the one He planned. It hurts, yes. It's confusing, absolutely. But divine timing doesn't always feel divine in the moment. It often feels like loss. It feels like abandonment. It feels like prayers going unanswered. But what if that silence you're experiencing is actually the space God is using to grow you? To shift your focus from who walked away to who remains with you. There is beauty in letting go of what is out of sync with your destiny. There is peace in trusting that the right people, the ones truly meant for your journey, will never need to be chased. Think of the doors you once begged to open that are now closed for good reason. Think of the people you thought you couldn't live without who are no longer in your life. And now, looking back, you realize it was grace that moved them out. The same grace is at work right now, even in the silence you hate. Trust that if she was meant to be in your life, nothing, not time, not distance, not silence, could keep her away. And if she's gone, trust that it's not because you are unworthy, but because something better is being written for you, in time. Her silence is not the end. It's a pause in the story. And sometimes, that pause is where God breathes. There is a kind of pain that doesn't scream. It doesn't demand attention or break down doors. It just sits quietly in the corners of your chest and whispers questions you don't know how to answer. That's the kind of pain that follows when someone you cared for, someone you thought would stay, stops reaching out. Days pass, then weeks, and you keep telling yourself maybe she's just busy. Maybe life got in the way. Maybe she'll text tomorrow. Maybe she just needs space. And the word maybe becomes the rope you keep wrapping around your heart, pulling tighter and tighter with every silent sunrise. But real healing doesn't come from clinging to maybe. It comes from accepting what is, even when it hurts, even when you're not ready, even when your whole being wants to fight it. Healing begins not with an explanation from her, but with a decision from you. A decision to stop waiting for a message that may never come. A decision to stop reading between the lines and start facing the lines you've been avoiding. She's not reaching out because she doesn't want to. And that's hard, but it's real. Denial is comfortable. It keeps hope alive, even when that hope is hollow. It lets you stay in the memory, in the past, in the story you were trying to write. But denial is also dangerous. It delays healing. It keeps you tied to a version of reality that no longer exists. And worse, it makes you doubt yourself. You start wondering if you're too sensitive, too needy, too much. You're not. You're just someone who cared, and that's never a flaw. But caring for someone doesn't mean you have to suffer for them. Acceptance isn't giving up, it's growing up. It's the brave step toward reclaiming your peace. It's saying, I don't understand why she's gone, but I won't let her silence destroy my spirit. When you choose to accept, you're not saying it didn't matter. You're saying you matter enough to stop chasing someone who no longer sees your worth. This kind of healing is slow. Some days, you'll feel strong. Other days, the silence will echo so loudly it rattles your chest. But every day you choose truth over illusion, you get a little freer. You stop rereading old messages. You stop waiting for her name to light up your screen. You begin to look inward, not for what you lost, but for what's still alive inside you. Your hope, your dignity, your ability to love again without losing yourself. The path to healing is not always paved with closure. Sometimes, all you get is a quiet ending and an open road. You may not have gotten the apology. You may never get the reason. But you can still get your life back. You can still grow. You can still heal. Not by pretending she'll return, but by accepting that she probably won't, and knowing that you will be okay anyway. So what does it mean when she doesn't call or message you for a long time? It means something. Maybe not in words, maybe not in anger, but silence itself is a language. And if you've been listening closely to everything we've shared today, then you already know. It's not just about her, it's about you, about how you respond, about who you become in the absence of the one you once reached for. Her silence might be her truth, but your healing is your choice. You've heard that silence has a message, and it does. It teaches you what words never could. You've learned that your longing for connection is not a weakness, but a reflection of your God-given design. You've seen how even in heartache, there is spiritual insight and divine timing working for your good. You've been reminded that letting go doesn't mean losing yourself, and that healing begins not in denial, but in bold, painful, beautiful acceptance. This journey isn't about bitterness. It's not about proving a point or closing a chapter with anger. It's about growing in grace, about standing with peace in the very place where your heart once broke. If she never calls, if she never messages again, will it hurt? Yes. But will you be okay? Yes. Because you now understand something deeper. People may leave, but purpose never does. Emotions may fade, but truth stands firm. And the one who stops reaching for you may not be part of your future. But that doesn't stop your future from being filled with light. You are not forgotten. You are not discarded. You are not alone. This silence, it's not the end. It's the beginning. So walk forward, not with resentment, but with resolve. Hold your head high, not because she left, but because you refuse to stay broken. And when the silence comes again, as it sometimes will, don't run from it. Listen to it. Let it remind you of what you've learned. Let it lead you to what lasts. And above all, let it guide you back to yourself. Because when she doesn't call or message you for a long time, it's not just about her absence, it's about your awakening. Amen.